Have you ever felt it? That quiet, creeping sense of unease that settles in on a Sunday evening. It's not overt panic, not yet, but a subtle dread, a low hum of anxiety for the week ahead. You go through the motions, you do the work, you pay the bills, you meet the deadlines, and from the outside, everything looks fine. You might even be what the world calls successful. You have the job, the title, the responsibilities. And yet, when you're alone with your thoughts, a question bubbles up from the depths, a question you try to push back down. Is this it? Is this all there is? Why am I really doing any of this? It's a question that haunts the modern condition, a silent epidemic of disconnection. We live in a world that relentlessly asks us, what do you do? But almost never asks, why do you do it? And when we try to answer that question for ourselves, the answers often feel hollow. For the money, to support my family, because it's the career path I chose in college. These are reasons, yes, but they are not the reason. They are results, not purposes. This feeling of being adrift, of being a highly functional but ultimately passionless cog in a machine, is the starting point of our story. It's the story of a man who felt this disconnection so profoundly, so painfully, that it nearly broke him. But instead of breaking, he became obsessed with understanding it. His name is Simon Sinek, and his journey began not as a celebrated author or a global speaker, but as a man who had completely and utterly lost his own way, trapped in the very fog of unfulfillment that so many of us navigate every single day. Before the TED Talk that would be seen by millions, before the best-selling books, Simon Sinek was living a life that, on paper, was the entrepreneurial dream. He ran his own marketing consultancy firm from a small apartment in New York City. He had clients. He was generating revenue. He was his own boss. He was doing everything he was supposed to do. But beneath the surface, he was drowning. The spark, the initial fire that had propelled him to start his own business, had been extinguished. He confessed that he no longer felt any passion for his work. Every morning was a struggle, every project a chore. He was living in a state of high-functioning depression, masterfully playing the part of a successful business owner, while internally, his sense of purpose had completely eroded. The most painful irony was his profession. His job was to help other companies articulate their value, to communicate their message to the world. Yet, if someone had asked him why his own company existed, beyond the simple goal of making a profit, he would have had no authentic answer. This hypocrisy ate away at him. He felt like a fraud, a charlatan selling advice he couldn't apply to his own life. This wasn't a sudden crisis, but a slow, grinding depletion of his spirit. He had built a successful job for himself, but he had failed to build a meaningful life. The dread became so overwhelming that he reached a breaking point. He was ready to walk away from it all, to close the business and admit defeat. It was in this moment of absolute despair, at his personal and professional rock bottom, that a new question began to form. He stopped looking for ways to fix his business and started looking for a pattern in human inspiration itself. He became a student of greatness, not to emulate it, but to understand its source code. He dove into the stories of the world's most influential leaders and organizations, people in groups that commanded immense loyalty and seemed to operate on a different level. He studied Martin Luther King Jr., the Wright brothers, Apple Incorporated. He wasn't looking at what they did or how they did it. He was obsessed with figuring out why. Why did they inspire such passion when others, with more resources and better credentials, faded into obscurity? He was convinced there was a hidden pattern, a biological code for inspiration. And if he could just find it, maybe, just maybe, he could find his own way out of the darkness. His search led him to a discovery of stunning simplicity and profound power, an idea he would come to call the Golden Circle. He realized that every single inspired leader and organization on the planet, regardless of their size or industry, thought, acted, and communicated in the exact same way, and it was a complete opposite of how everyone else did. He visualized this pattern as 3 concentric circles. The outermost circle is the what. Every single person and company knows what they do. These are the products they sell, the services they offer, the job function they perform. It's the easiest thing to identify and articulate. The next circle in is the how. Some people and companies know how they do what they do. These are their differentiators, their proprietary processes, Their unique selling propositions. It's what they believe sets them apart from the competition. But at the very core, the very heart of the model is the why. And this is where almost everyone gets lost. The why is not about money. That's just a result. The why is the purpose, the cause, the belief. It's the very reason your organization exists, the very reason you get out of bed in the morning. What Sinek found was that most of us live our lives and run our businesses from the outside in. We start with the clearest thing, our what, and work our way toward the fuzziest thing, our why. But the great ones, the inspiring ones, operate from the inside out. They start with why. To see this in action, consider his most famous example, Apple. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them would sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want buy one. And it's fine. It's a perfectly acceptable sales pitch. But it's utterly uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Starting from the inside out. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want buy one. The offer is the same, but the feeling is completely different. The first is a pitch. The second is a declaration of purpose. One sells a product. The other invites you to join a cause. This isn't just a psychological trick. It's rooted in biology. The outer part of our brain, the neocortex, corresponds with the what level. It's responsible for rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections of the golden circle, the how and the why, correspond with our limbic brain, which is responsible for all of our feelings like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior and decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. When we communicate from the outside in, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information, but it doesn't drive their behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls decision-making, and our neocortex then rationalizes that decision with tangible facts. It's where gut feelings come from. It explained the story of the Wright brothers. Their competitor, Samuel Pierpont Langley, had every ingredient for success. He had a $50,000 grant from the War Department, a team of the best minds money could find, and the full attention of the press. He had the what and the how. The Wright brothers, by contrast, had none of that. They were funded by the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on their team had a college education. But Orville and Wilbur had a why. They had a dream. They believed that if they could master powered flight, it would change the course of the world. This belief inspired their team to work with blood, sweat, and tears for a cause, not a paycheck. When the Wrights finally took flight on December 17th, 1903, no one was there to see it. The world found out days later. The fascinating thing is that the moment Langley heard of their success, he quit. He could have said, "That's amazing. Now I'll improve upon their technology." But he didn't. He wasn't first. He wouldn't get rich. He wouldn't be famous. His why was shallow, so his motivation vanished. For Sinek, this was a breakthrough. The reason he felt lost, the reason so many of us feel unfulfilled, is that we are living our lives focused on the what, desperately trying to find happiness and success in the tangible world, while completely ignoring the intangible source of passion that lies within our why. The discovery of the golden circle was a revelation. It provided a powerful diagnosis for why so many people and organizations struggle. The book that followed, Start With Why, became a phenomenon, and its central message resonated with millions. People were inspired. They finally had a name for that missing piece of the puzzle. But this very success created an entirely new and complicated problem. The feedback Sinek received was overwhelming and consistent. I get it. I'm inspired. But how? How do I actually find my why? The golden circle was a brilliant map, but people didn't know how to find their own X that marked the spot. He had explained the what of the problem, but not the how of the solution. This challenged forced Sinek and his team to go deeper. They realized that you can't just invent a why. It's not an aspirational statement you pluck from the air because it sounds noble. If you do that, it's inauthentic, and it will lack the emotional power to drive behavior. A true why isn't created. It's discovered. It's not a forward-looking invention, but a backward-looking excavation. Your why is already within you, woven into the fabric of your life's experiences. It is the golden thread that runs through your most meaningful moments, your greatest triumphs, and even your most painful struggles. It's the sum total of who you are, born from your past. This realization led to the development of a practical, human-centered process, a guided journey designed not to invent a purpose, but to unearth one. The first and most critical step in this process is that it is not a solo mission. You cannot find your why by sitting alone in a room and thinking really hard. Our own stories are too close to us. We lack the necessary perspective. You need a partner, a trusted friend, colleague, or a family member who can act as a guide and a mirror. Their role is not to give you answers, but to listen and reflect, helping you see the patterns you're too close to notice. The core of the process is storytelling. Your partner's job is to prompt you to gather specific, high-impact memories from your life. They will ask you to tell stories of times when you felt truly alive, moments when you were operating at your absolute best, when you felt an immense sense of pride or joy. These aren't just generic statements like, "I like helping people." They must be specific anecdotes. You'd recount the story of teaching your niece to ride her bike, describing the frustration, the scraped knees, and the overwhelming wave of pride you felt when she finally pedaled away on her own. You'd tell the story of a project at work that was failing until you stepped in, rallied the team, and turned it into a massive success. You'd share a memory of helping a friend navigate a deeply personal crisis, staying up all night just to be a listening ear. As you tell these stories, your partner listens intently, not to judge or interpret, but to capture the key words, emotions, and themes that surface again and again. They are looking for the common denominator. After sharing several stories, your partner will start to reflect these themes back to you. They might say, "It's interesting. In every one of your stories, there's a moment where you help someone break through a barrier they didn't think they could cross." There's a theme of unlocking potential. From these distilled themes, you begin to draft your why statement. The structure is simple yet powerful. To your contribution, so that the impact you want to have. The contribution is the verb, the action that you consistently and naturally take in your best moments. The impact is the effect your contribution has on others and the world. Based on the themes of unlocking potential, a first draft might be to push people past their limits so that they can achieve more than they ever thought possible. This statement then becomes a living document, a tool for discovery. It's not about getting it perfect on the first try, but about capturing the essence of what truly drives you. This process fundamentally shifts the search for purpose from a frustrating quest for a magical answer into a deeply personal and affirming act of self-discovery. The true aha moment, the grand synthesis of Sinek's work, arrives when you realize that these two ideas, the golden circle and the personal why discovery process, are not separate concepts. They are two halves of single, unifying truth about the human experience. The golden circle is not just a clever marketing framework. It is a biological and anthropological blueprint for a fulfilled and meaningful life. Our deep, primal need to belong is a survival mechanism hardwired into our limbic brains over millennia. We are social animals who thrive in communities where we feel safe and trusted. We are naturally drawn to leaders, brands, and other people who can clearly articulate what they believe. When they state their why, it allows us to feel a sense of connection, to identify as part of their tribe. It speaks directly to that nonverbal, decision-making part of our brain and says, "You are safe here. We believe what you believe." The process of finding your personal why is the bridge that connects this profound biological concept to your everyday reality. It takes the theory and makes it intensely personal. It's the how that unlocks the power of the why. The grand realization is this. Your personal why statement is the ultimate filter for your life. It is the source code for your fulfillment. When your what, your job, your daily actions, your relationships is in perfect alignment with your why, you experience passion, joy, and a sense of purpose. This is what we call fulfillment. When your what is out of alignment with your why, you experience stress, frustration, burnout, and that quiet, gnawing feeling of being lost. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. This explains why you can have two jobs with similar salaries and responsibilities, yet one energizes you and the other drains you. It's not about the what, It's about the alignment with your why. This explains why we feel such fierce loyalty to certain brands that seem to embody our own values, and complete indifference to others. It explains why some leaders can inspire us to achieve the impossible, while others, who simply manage tasks, can't. The ultimate payoff is the reframing of the entire search for meaning. The answer isn't out there somewhere, waiting to be found in a new career, a new city, or a new relationship. The answer is, and always has been, in here. It's buried in the rich soil of your own life stories, waiting for you to do the work of digging it up. Fulfillment, then, is not some grand prize you receive at the end of a long and difficult race. It is a feeling you get step by step, day by day, when you are running your own race, in your own lane, guided by the unwavering compass of your own authentic why. Our journey began with a universal feeling of disconnection, that quiet sense of being adrift in our own lives. We followed the story of a man who felt this so deeply it drove him to the edge, and in his search for answers, he stumbled upon a powerful pattern that governs human inspiration, the golden circle. But a concept alone wasn't enough. It was a subsequent realization that our personal why is not something we invent, but something we discover within our own stories that provided a practical path forward. The blueprint, then, is not complex, but it does require courage. First, you must give yourself permission to acknowledge that feeling of being unfulfilled, not as a weakness, but as a signal that something is out of alignment. Second, understand that the solution is not a new what, but a clear why. Third, you must commit to the excavation. Find a person you trust. Sit down with them and begin the vulnerable process of sharing the stories that define you at your best. From those stories, distill the themes of your contribution and impact, and craft the first draft of your why statement. Finally, and most importantly, begin to use that statement as a filter, consciously choosing to put more of your time and energy into the things that align with your core purpose. This is not just an intellectual exercise to find a catchy personal mission statement. This is the work of reclaiming your life's narrative. It's about building a career and a life that doesn't just look good on the outside, but feels good on the inside. It's about ensuring that your contribution to the world is a true and honest expression of who you are. The journey of self-discovery and purposeful living is a continuous one, and you certainly don't have to walk it alone. By subscribing to this channel, you're not just clicking a button. You're raising your hand and declaring that you are ready to live a life that is more intentional, more aligned, and more fulfilling. You're joining a community of people committed to asking the bigger questions and doing the meaningful work. Your life story has already been written in the moments that have shaped you. The only question left is, are you ready to finally read it?